This week I was thinking about how Jesus prayed. Now, when he was on the planet, he modeled how we were to relate to God. And he did teach us how to pray. But as I looked at his life, I think there were two primary ways that Jesus prayed. One was he asked God for things, which is what we all do. But when he needed a miracle, he spoke to things. He spoke to demons, illnesses, the weather, and fig trees. He didn't ask God to do a miracle. He just spoke to it, and a miracle happened. Now, obviously, he prayed with spiritual authority. Now, I know what you're thinking. Of course, he had spiritual authority. He was God. But when he was teaching the disciples, he said that if any of us, being believers, had faith the size of a mustard seed, we could cast mountains and trees into the ocean. Well, that's delegated spiritual authority. He also said that he'd given us the keys to the kingdom, and what we bind on earth, it's bound in heaven. So he wanted us to use this delegated spiritual authority and repeat the pattern that he demonstrated. And of course, in the book of Acts, the disciples did that. If you remember Peter, when he met the cripple at the temple gate, he just said, "Rise up and walk." And he did. And so that became the New Testament pattern. But that's not very common in our generation. But I actually saw it happen. I was at a small committee meeting, and one of the members of the committee was a famous Christian author who's written about 40 books, and several of the books was about using delegated authority. Well, one of my friends who I had come with to the meeting had a short leg and a short foot. And so at the end of the agenda, he asked this famous author if he would pray for him for these two conditions. So the author came over, looked at the uneven legs, and he prayed the most simple prayer. I don't remember the exact words, but it was something as simple as, "Leg, grow." And within a few seconds, the leg popped out. Then he looked at the foot. One foot was taller than the other, and he just said, "Foot, grow." And within a few seconds, it was even. I was astonished. It was a jaw-dropping experience, but he knew authority. He repeated Jesus' pattern. And a few weeks ago, I told you my story of my leg lengthening experience. And when I prayed for that woman, I did exactly the same thing, because the teacher told me, pray for the muscles, joints, and ligaments, that her spine would straighten and her legs would even out. And that's what happened. And remember, you can speak to yourself. And that could be for a physical problem or to change the way you think. And don't feel that you're bossing God around. That we are just repeating Jesus' pattern. We're doing what he told us to do. So to live a transformed life, you need to pray with spiritual authority and speak to the mountains in your life. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever prayed that way? And what happened? Just leave your comments in the box below. And if this is your first visit here, you need to get my free self-assessment guide. And to do that, just subscribe to my weekly email newsletter by filling out the subscription form right there. And I'll talk to you again next week, but this week, speak to your mountains. You're just following Jesus' pattern.